So, hello and welcome to this special show on nature, climate, and governance. And as the saying goes, nature can suffice our need, but not our greed. Now, Telangana is undergoing a green revolution led by Chief Minister Revant Reddy, whose climate focused policies are redefining sustainability in the state. Now, from restoring 75 lakes to pioneering EV transitions, afforestation, and renewable energy projects, his administration is tackling climate change head on. Now, to discuss this very important topic of preservation, climate, and governance, we are being joined by Mr. Rajnikant Pula. He's a weather blogger and an independent weather enthusiast. Welcome to the show, Mr. Pula.
Thank you, Divya.
Okay, so now without much ado, we'll straight off jump into getting a better understanding into the space. Now, Telangana's Hydra project has rejuvenated the lakes and also brought back migratory birds like the red-breasted flycatcher. Now, what do you think is the role of such ecological restoration initiatives? What role do they play in improving the climate resilience?
Yes, so Divya, when we talk about climate resilience, so we must also talk about climate change a bit here. So, climate change is a hot topic globally nowadays. If we see, there's a global warming trend that we are seeing in the last 100 years due to anthropogenic reasons. So, this is affecting the weather systems across the globe, and that is creating intense episodes of rainfall confined to a particular location, especially. So, the mitigation and preparing for these challenges is very much important nowadays, especially in the urban landscape, because we have an unplanned urban infrastructure right now in many of our cities. So we do need to take measures to cater to this. One of those measures that the government is currently taking is in terms of Hydra. The main point they have is restoration of lakes and water bodies in the city, which is a welcome move. But yeah, and because the lakes act as a sink for the excessive water. Right. So if there is a situation of excessive rainfall, extreme rainfall in the city, then the water has to go to some place instead of inundating the areas, low-lying areas, and going into people's houses. So they need to be diverted into water bodies. So lakes at each location, right? What are the natural lakes that are already there? They need to be preserved. They need to be regenerated because they can attract the floodwater and they can store the floodwater properly. While we look at that aspect, we should also look at how we can divert the excessive water, the runoff water into the lake. Right. So even though we restore the lake area or the area around the lake, but in case of a flood, the excessive runoff water has to be diverted into the lake somehow. So if the surroundings around the lake are not in such a way that the inclination of the ground is not in such a way that water is diverted into the lake, it can still inundate the houses. So we must also ensure that the surrounding area, the inclination of the land in the surrounding area should be diverted towards the lake.
Yeah.
This is one thing. And second thing is lakes also work as a groundwater recharge. Lots of people are getting migrated into the urban areas. So they need water, they need sustenance, they need food. So groundwater plays a very important role today in order to serve the water needs of the growing population. And people have to go around 400 to 500 feet depth in the ground to get groundwater. So in such a rate, the groundwater is depleting. If we look at the last year statistics, the Hyderabad groundwater is depleted by around 7 to 8 meters, which is the highest since many years. So recharging of the groundwater is very essential. Unless we take steps at this stage, I think it will be too late for us to, for the sustainability of the city.
Okay, could you you also tell us what do you think now? What is being done in Telangana? If you, what do you think similar stuff can also be done in other states, and we can, take inspiration from this approach?
Exactly. I think wherever especially wherever the mega cities are located, they need to take urgent steps in order to make them sustainable for the people. And in the view of the climate change as well, if we see, the extreme events are likely to occur very frequently in the future. So which includes not only heavy rainfall, it includes heat waves, it includes cold waves. So all these are going to be affected by the climate change. So how do we make our urban spaces resilient to this kind of effects? We need to look into it more deeper right now, and it is time to think about it uh, now.
Absolutely. And I think be ready for it, because in the last few
Exactly.
years, only you'll have to correct me if I'm right there or wrong. Last few years, there has been a big weather change all across, even in India. So
Mhm.
here in Delhi, I see the winters are not as cold as they used to be. They do not come at the time at which they used to come a couple of years back. The timings have changed, the intensity has changed. So I think what you're trying to suggest is that we have to be prepared for the changes that will be coming, down the years as well.
Exactly. Because if we see the research in the climate change that is happening right now, the outcome of that research is that scientists are suggesting that there will be erratic weather patterns in future. So the climate that we know as of today, it is going to change, right?
Right.
And if we look at the monsoons, India is mostly dependent on monsoon systems, and climate change is going to make the monsoon very erratic. And what we are also seeing in the last decade, if we see the distribution of rainfall across India is very uneven. Sometimes
Yeah.
at some locations there are floods, in some locations there is a drought. And there are very localized events as well. If you see in this year, I think in Rameswaram,
Mhm.
that's one place in Tamil Nadu where it received very extreme rainfall.
Yeah.
And we are seeing depressions right into December as well. So right now, depression is going on in Bay of Bengal. So December is
Mhm.
not usually the time that we get these systems in Bay of Bengal. So these are all things, the weather is changing. And not only the monsoons, it's going to affect the summer months and winter
All the
months as well,
seasons.
because,
All the
yeah,
seasons. Yeah.
all seasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it's high time that all the states across India, and of course across the world also, that everybody does take kind of charge and start planning for all of what is already visible even currently. Okay, so now
Exactly.
let's talk about now Hyderabad has been emerging as a leader in the public transport electrification also, and in reducing urban pollution through battery operated vehicles and pedestrian friendly zones. Now, how significant do you think is this shift for combating climate change?
Absolutely, because most of our transportation, if we see 75% of the global carbon emissions is due to transportation. So
Yeah.
it may also include aviation as well, but the significant part is also from road transportation, ground transportation. And the fuel that we are using, that is the cause of this CO2 emissions. We are using fossil fuels from coal, petroleum, natural gas, and all, which are fossil fuels, and they emit a lot of carbon dioxide. The only alternative that as of now, as per the technology that we have, is shifting to electrical. This is happening across the globe, not only in India, in the US. I had a recent visit to the US. There is a very large shift into electrical vehicles. So this definitely is necessary. At the same time, there is a downside of electrical vehicles as well, because in the recent research, what they have found is that the carbon footprint of manufacturing an electrical vehicle is much more than that of a conventional vehicle, right? So, yeah, because electrical vehicles use, as you said, batteries. which are primarily made up of lithium ion. Right,
Okay.
so lithium is again an element which should be mined from the ground. So it is a product of mining,
Okay.
and during mining it can cause a high amount of pollution into the surrounding atmosphere. So this is what they have found. And surrounding lakes and ecosystems all can get contaminated and polluted when we are mining lithium. But right now, the best technology that we have to avoid fossil fuel is definitely electricity. But when we are manufacturing and using electric vehicles on a larger scale, I think these points should also be kept in mind.
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's talk about Telangana's afforestation drives. Now, there, and all these sustainable housing projects that have been prepared by Hyderabad to withstand the extreme weather events, like how you spoke about the heat waves and the urban flooding. Now, do you think states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala too can benefit if they adopt the Revanth Reddy approach to climate? If I can call it
Definitely.
that?
Yeah, definitely. Any state should, I think this is high time that any state should think about climate at this stage, and they should integrate the mitigation into their policy, because till now we are not talking that much about climate. Even in our election campaigns, it is not the primary issue. So it has to be in future. Uh, so definitely they need to adapt any best practices that they see. And when you talk about afforestation, one more point that I would say is that definitely afforestation is needed, because if you see most of our urban landscape, um, because of infrastructure needs, we are destroying bigger trees, right? And then they are not translocated into proper places. There is a guideline that they need to be translocated as well. That is not happening on the ground.
And you are not sure whether it's happening in India for sure or not. And you do
Yes.
at times see videos of, such things happening in a couple of locations abroad, and that is extremely fascinating.
In the urban spaces, the kind of vegetation that we see right now,
Yeah,
the bigger trees are getting replaced with smaller ones, right?
yeah,
So even the
right.
parks or in the green spaces, what we see as a smaller ornamental plants, or the big trees are
Yeah,
not visible that much, right?
absolutely.
So
Very
so
right.
when
The ones that
right,
give us shade, etc.
exactly.
Absolutely right.
Exactly.
Correct.
The kind of environmental benefit that we get out of a bigger tree is far more compared with the smaller ornamental plants. Right now, there is also a good practice that people are growing terrace gardens. Right,
Yeah,
that is also good practice. But even in a terrace garden, you cannot grow bigger trees. So
absolutely.
yeah, so then there is a need for, find sufficient space around or in or around the city where we can
Mhm.
plant bigger trees, and also they need to be maintained. So the
Yeah.
enthusiasm in planting lakhs of trees dies out very quickly, and they are not well maintained, and they may also get died very easily.
Okay, so now let's talk about solar energy. Now, Telangana's solar energy integration and the ecotourism initiatives also reflect a balance between environmental sustainability and economic growth as well. So, please share with us how vital are these initiatives, especially when India has committed to reducing the total projected carbon emissions by 1 billion tons from now onwards till 2030.
Absolutely. Say, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, right? So it has set up a target that the global temperature increase should be limited to 1.5 degree. But if we see 2023, 2024, they have emerged as the warmest years on record, right? In the around the globe, and we have already surpassed that 1.5 degree mark. We are into the 2 degree mark right now.
Okay.
So that is why there is a greater pressure on the world, on the governments, that they need to take some action in order to reduce this climate change, and and to take measures in that direction. So solar energy, if we talk about solar energy, India is a tropical country. India has a distinctive advantage in terms of solar power because we have a lot of sunshine most of the time in the year, and that can be tapped to generate energy out of it. So
Yeah.
that direction is a very welcome step, and it has to be, I think, encouraged. Similarly, rooftop solar panels, I think that can be made kind of mandatory, or incentives can be given so that people are encouraged to have their own power source from rooftop solar panels. And then in urban spaces also, there are innovative ways in which we can tap the solar energy. Like, say, for example, parking lots, instead of covering them with a concrete slab, cover them with a solar panel, right? And wherever certain shade is needed, instead of
Hmm.
using asbestos, use a solar panel. So similarly, in every urban area,
There
innovative
are
ways can
also
happen.
cost implication and maintenance implications there as well.
Absolutely. That has to be maintained as well. Any infrastructure that we develop needs proper maintenance, otherwise it's no use. Yeah. Even the metro stations, and those can also be locations where we can tap solar energy, because
Absolutely.
on the top of the metro stations, we can install solar panels. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, as a parting thought, would you like to share some pointers with us, probably what Telangana is doing, better than the other states in India, and what, we can take note of?
I think the very welcome step is the government taking the initiative to act on the aspect of climate change and to make cities resilient. That itself is the biggest initiative and the positive step that anyone can take. And I wish that all the governments take cue from this and implement their own strategies. I think the solutions has to be local, because the problems faced by the local community is most important, and how from the ground level we can bring change is most important thing that we have to think about. So every state, they have their own challenges, they have to find their own solutions, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking to us. That was Rajnikant Pula, weather blogger and independent weather enthusiast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samriddhi.